performance of the Mahabharata project, which has been directed by internationally acclaimed performing arts director Hiroshi Koike. And this project began in 2013 in Cambodia with a goal to adapt the entire Mahabharata for the stage, and is now in its ninth year. So each year, he had traveled to a country in Asia to produce a proportion of the Mahabharata with local artists and musicians. The project has produced 7 productions in 9 countries, including India, Cambodia, Indonesia, and he has performed over 40 stages, receiving critical acclaim. So Hiroshi Koike brings together performers who have a diverse background in classical and traditional Asian performing arts. He highlights the differences but creates a unified world where the elements of expression and are physically able to coexist. So now I would like to introduce Mr. Hiroshi Koike. He himself is just very much there. So I shift this stage to him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Tomo-san, and because I would like to explain that you mentioned, but I want to introduce myself first. Hello, this is Hiroshi Koike, the director of the Bridge Project. I'm a stage director and the script writer, choreographer for a long time, and became the movie director from last year. Thank you for your joining my talk. Yeah, before the mention of the Mahabharata project, I have to talk about my long career because everything connects with the reason why creating Mahabharata. I would like to introduce myself first. My performing arts career started in 1982, about 40 years ago, as a professional artist. Before that, I made 7 pieces in my university days, and I worked TV company as TV director for 2 years. But as soon as I gave up small TV screen, I sailed for a long trip till now. In 1982, I named the company Papa Tarahumara. Tarahumara is a Mexican tribe's name, and the tribe is famous for learning tribe in Copper Canyon mountain area. Then I made 55 productions during the 30 years of Papa Tarahumara era, and was shocked by the great East Japan earthquake on March 11th, 2011, and the problem of the Fukushima nuclear power plant, and then disbanded Papa Tarahumara a year later, then started the Hiroshi Koike Bridge project. The Great East Japan earthquake and the meltdown of the Fukushima nuclear power plant shattered the process of development that people believes to enriched, and we were greatly questioned about the way civilization itself should be and the way humans live. So I thought it was necessary to review the world from every aspect. For me, I wanted to disband my own company, which I valued most, bring it back to zero, and ask myself again what I could do from that point. Again, I asked me what kind of fruit I would like to sprout from the earth. With creativity at the core, I set 3 branches, creation, education, and the publication, then started. As creation, I decided to create a Japanese poet and the fairy tale writer Kenji Miyazawa's 3 kinds of works, and Mahabharata from the beginning to the end. Kenji Miyazawa looked at the world from the non-human perspective, animals' perspective, the dead people's perspective, and the nature itself. At the same time, from India, I thought of complete Mahabharata of the world's longest epic, Mahabharata. So I started to create 4 chapters one by one every year since 2013 in various parts of Asia, and was completed in August 2021 this year. So far, 22 works have been created in Hiroshi Koike Bridge project. Here is a brief introduction video. Please look at this first. Short notice. I don't like any kind of boundaries, so all my productions mix all the kinds of elements of performing arts. Please wait. Yeah. Why did I try to create Mahabharata? I worked on the creation of Mahabharata from the perspective of what human beings are, what it means to fight, whether there is a salvation in the world, and why Krishna, the incarnation of Vishnu, led to the destruction one after another. Mahabharata begins with the story of gods and ends with the destruction. If even the descendants of gods are destroyed, is destruction of human beings essential? I started to create from that question. As Mahabharata is too long, so normally the creators only made a part of it, but I strongly felt that it didn't make sense. It was important for me to draw from their rise to the ruin. This is because we are historical beings, and I saw the perspective which gives a large bird's eye view of history itself is essential for thinking about the future world. I sought to create Mahabharata from 2005, but I couldn't find strong motivation. However, 6 years later, the nuclear accident became a big trigger, and I dissolved my ex-company, then started Bridge Project and Mahabharata's preparation in 2012. Of course, it's such a long story that it's not easy to make. So I plan to finally put it together as a 4-part work. As for the place, I thought about creating in the various parts of Asia, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, and Thailand. It was because I felt the limits of European thinking, and I wanted to express the idea of Asian style circulation. Therefore, I decided to make the philosophical world of Asia in Asia. And all the performers and the staffs are Asian artists. I fixed the regulation of this creation. First, when I create a production, every time I must choose the different cultural place inside Asia. Second, I work with different background artists. Third, at least at the same time, I work with over 4 countries' artists. Fourth, I need a native co-producer. I started with the creation in Cambodia 2013. Cambodia was the most recent genocide in Asia. About 1.7 million people were killed by Khmer Rouge Party, led by Pol Pot in 5 years leading up to around 1979. Anti-intellectualism dominated that, not only educated people, but also those who could read letters and who were tied with intelligence were killed. And the city residents of Phnom Penh were driven to local area as farmers, yet many were killed. I choose the 2 most recent tragic places for the tour in Asia: Cambodia and Cambodia, Phnom Penh, then Vietnam, Hanoi. However, when I went to Phnom Penh to prepare for Mahabharata in 2012, there were very good performers, that is, dancers and musicians, but the creators to create new ones from scratch were in a state of destruction, and at that time, it was already 30 years past since the genocide. I couldn't find such artists at all. Writer, composer, visual artist, costume designer, lighting designer, etc. I experienced the Pol Pot's genocide was terrible. I was shocked at the situation because their Cambodia is a land where blossomed Khmer culture, and also Cambodian dancers were so bright. All as they tried to laugh much. This time I asked the performers to use Khmer language for using lines as an experiment. The performance was a wonderful reaction in both Cambodia and Vietnam. However, unfortunately, most of audience were Western people, especially in Phnom Penh. Next, 2014 was India. We practiced in Thrissur, a cultural city in Kerala state. At first glance, I felt this town was a little prosperous city in the countryside, but after a week, my impression became different completely. There were so many performing arts that originated in Kerala. Not to mention Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Kuriyattam, and the Karali, for example, Karalipayat, which is famous for the martial arts. A lot of arts, entertainment and the arts comes out from this Kerala. We Japanese, with the time, we Japanese, Indian, Thai, Malaysian artists practiced in the art university there. There were 3 Kerala actors and dancers and 1 actress from Delhi. In Cambodia, we used the Khmer language for the lines, but I didn't get any good feeling because except Cambodian, the other countries' artists didn't have any reality. So as an experiment in India, I asked the performers to use English for using lines. The practice in India was amazing and terrible. Now, looking back, it was a lot of fun, so funny. However, that time I got many dissatisfaction from the artists, except Indian ones. I have never practiced in such terrible environment, too hot, too dusty, too noisy. Yeah, so many bad, yeah, environment. We started practicing in the dark or in the morning. Since the temperature became over 40 degrees inside the room, 4 big fans turned in the rehearsal studio, but too noisy and no value, just stealing hot air. And the electricity was so dark. We started the run-through before noon, but there was a blackout twice every 3 days. Yeah, twice every 3 days. Power outrage and blackout normally happened during the run-through. Of course, music disappeared. We hurriedly ran to open the window, but when window opened, a lot of noise coming from the outside because new open theater was under construction next to it. So the noise echoed loudly. One day during the rehearsal, when we looked up at the ceiling, a huge white snake was hanging down. One Japanese female dancer was terrified and couldn't move at all. So funny. However, performances in India was enthusiastically welcomed in Trishul and Mumbai. The second part was from this time I made the second part. Second part was from the gambling game, then the exile of the Pandava into the forest before the battle of Kurukshetra war. Here I will show you the document in a documentary in India.
Hiroshi Koike's Mahabharata project is an international project spanning across 4 years.
This is a very, very nice play. Nice.
No theater like that. In the movements of characters, in their vocal expressions and the music in vocal expressions. Like that, we felt a theatre of no, like that, traditions. We felt that.
Within 90 minutes is a big task. It's a very, very challenging, highly challenging. And I think Hiroshi has done a perfect job in making the script.
Man-made crisis, not the natural disaster. Man-made, how to develop this world.
One thing that Hiroshi teach us and advise us is to listen. Listen to each other, listen to yourself, listen to your body. And the preparation for that, I would say the most important is be yourself.
And so, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. In 2015, I remade chapter 2. I remade chapter 2 in Japan, in Tokyo. Yeah, from this year, I changed to use mother tongue for using lines. Because of performers used Khmer language in Cambodia, then English in India. However, I felt mother tongue was the strongest language for the connecting with their own bodies and feelings. Mother tongue reached their depths and their memory directly and easily. Yeah, and in Japan, I made chapter 2.5, but then toured Bangkok, Shanghai, Manila, and Tokyo, then Tokyo. But when we entered Shanghai below freezing after Bangkok performance with a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius or higher, there was one Thai artist, Thai dancer, who got influenza and it spread so much. Next, 2016, I made the third part in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and toured with Yogyakarta and Jakarta. At this time, it was a battle against the budget. I knew this production would be completely in the lead from the top, but I proceeded to create the production no matter what, because I couldn't stop here for considering the possibility of the future's funding and my setting this project with Tokyo Olympics in 2020. If we stopped at this point, we couldn't become to proceed this easily because of the limitation of time frame and futures funding. Next one, 2017. In 2017, the fourth part was produced in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Toured Chiang Mai, Bangkok, then Tokyo. We were able to use the air conditioner for the first time here, but the rehearsal studio in Chiang Mai was small, and due to budget problem happened. The number of performers was reduced one by one, so the performers had to go out and in repeatedly for changing costumes and masks. I used about 60 Mahabharata characters, acting by 7 to 12 performers only. Yeah, the first and Cambodia 7. The number performers is 7. In 2018, I remade the second part again in Tokyo and toured 5 places only in Japan. Okay, I will show you the 3 minutes videos. Just Cambodia, Thai, yeah, Malaysia, Indonesia, India's performance.
「
This one, the Cambodia's performance. It was clean. Okay, next. In 2019, next year, I finally could start to put together the first half of Mahabharata in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Again, third part I did in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and one more time I tried to create in Yogyakarta. I was strongly enthusiastic that I would enter the final stage using selected performers from all the great, everybody great, all the great. However, all the great participated performers, one more time I selected. So far, most of the music and the costumes would be changed, and the number of performers will be increased to 12 dancers and actors. Until then, there were 7, 8, or 9 already mentioned, so I thought that the creative range would expand considerably. However, this year, a very difficult situation happened. This time we faced on the most serious crisis. The responsible manager in charge of foreign affairs suddenly disappeared with a word of "I'm sorry" 18 days before the start of the rehearsal by the reliable overseas artist in Yogyakarta. I quickly understood why she disappeared. I believed that she had said it's okay and it's working fine, no problem until that time. But when it was discovered that nothing was working, all the team members left, found she couldn't cheat anymore, so she ran away with company's computer. I was very angry, but I thought it was bad for me to believe too much. And as no time, so changed my mind, then immediately searched for the next move. Immediately, when we looked it up, the running away manager couldn't even book the casts properly. As a result, 4 dancers couldn't join this production. I shocked much. Composer, visual artist, and the costume designer were okay because I was interacting directly with them. But it was so painful that the cast failed. We were desperately searching for the remaining 16 days until the start of the rehearsal with our Indonesian counterpartner ALS management team. Yeah, thank you so much, ALS. As a result, fortunately, the best artists gathered. Only 15 days, yeah, changed, the situation changed completely. It turns out to be a fortune. This was miraculous, and all the participants were surprised at this outcome. Well, 2020, in order to accomplish complete Mahabharata, we had to get a lot of funding and any other governmental and private sponsors. Especially, we could get Olympic Committee's cooperation. This cooperation became so useful for foreign artists' visas to Japan in 2021, next year. But in fact, Indian and Cambodian visas weren't issued in 2021. Yeah, it's so pity for them not to join this production. Yeah, come back again. Anyway, in 2020, of course, COVID-19 was sweeping the world. So it would be postponed for 1 year, but things weren't easy at all. It wasn't almost impossible to continue financially. So we had to negotiate with a lot of organizations. So hard time we spent last 1 year. COVID-19 hasn't diminished and the vaccine has been delayed in Japan. However, the government of Japan promoted the holding of the Olympic Games. So we were able to hold it for my already mentioned reason. But the rehearsal period was shortened due to the 2 weeks isolation policy, and the use of the rehearsal space had to come out at 8 p.m. as well. We used the largest rehearsal studio of Morishita Studio, owned by one of the co-sponsors, the Saison Foundation. I felt this is the most blessed rehearsal studio in Japan. Originally, the space can be used from 10 to 10, but we practice from 10:30 to 6:30 a day, including the breaks. And then we have a meeting. After that, we have meetings and checking props after the rehearsal. So short time. After 8 p.m. and also 8 p.m. After 8 p.m., all the restaurants and the cafes closed in Tokyo. So meaning we cannot have the meetings there. And also checking the props. This meaning is that we couldn't eat all together. Not at all. And just a little chatting only in a small group during the rehearsal and the performance period. This meaning 2 months half, 2.5 months. We cannot do it together at all. Anyway, we didn't have enough time to make it. There were 51 days of the rehearsal for 6.5 hours production. First half 3 hours, last half fast. First half is 3 hours, and the last half 3.5 hours. However, we had to use last 10 days for adjusting all the props, costumes, video images, moving the stage set, musicians, sound and lighting with dancers movement, many things we have to adjust. If so, we can use only 41 days for the performance rehearsal. So 6 hours production, 41 days. Yeah, that one too short. I planned the detailed for the rehearsal. I had never made such a detailed plan, and I had to fight with a lot of pressure that I needed to make it without changing that plan at all, perfectly according to the plan. So, since the first half was made in Indonesia in 2019, I thought about tracing it roughly, but the music, costumes, and the equipment were different. Nevertheless, I managed to shape the first half in 13 days for 3 hours piece. Then we would create the last half for 28 days. 3.5, the 28 days are too short. However, I had to check the first half. Yeah, I had to check the first half from time to time during the creation of the last half. So I couldn't concentrate on the second half only. And regarding chapter 3 and 4, the meaning is the second half, last half. I tried to change the music, stage set, and the costume almost, and added a lot of video images and animations. This meaning almost I changed. In this way, we made a complete Mahabharata. I mentioned only my hardness. However, I appreciate so much all the participants, especially foreign performers, accompanied with taking isolation policy for 2 years in Japan, and 2 years, not 2 weeks, 2 weeks in Japan and 2 weeks in their own countries. And one more, the reason why we could do this production only for 51 days rehearsal is that all the participants' energy and the technique are the greatest. This is the biggest reason for creating this production only for 51 days. Even during the rehearsal, the number of infected patients increased, especially after mid-July. So with a similar trajectory, ticket sales stopped growing, and a lot of cancellation happened. We planned the premiere performance date on August 20th. However, the performance date has overlapped with the peak number of infected patients in Tokyo completely. Even so, we could manage to finish all 6 stages. Yeah, finally. And the next day, the foreign performers returned to their home countries. Funny things happened. For example, the Thai aircraft on which 2 artists from Thailand were on board became a dedicated flight only for these 2 artists. No other no other on board. Well, the performance is over. Why did I try to do such kind of performance? I made such a work in order to explore the future of the world. Artists with almost different backgrounds, Northern Thai dance, Javanese, not Japanese, Javanese dance, Balinese dance, Buto dance, contemporary dance, Ryukyu, Ryukyu is Okinawa, Ryukyu dance, Japanese dance, Western ballet, modern dance, music, etc. Music is also contemporary music, rock music, Japanese traditional, Balinese, gamelan, Indian music, Javanese music, Thai traditional, Cambodian traditional, computer music, rap music, many kinds. If you hear this talk only, maybe you feel whether it's okay. Various sounds are mixed, and there are dancers of various shapes for 6 hours. Possible? Is it in chaos? You think maybe it is likely to be a chaotic state. The technique of dancers are different, and elements of various countries, such as objects and costumes, are mixed. I used 7 languages, Japanese, English, Ryukyu and Okinawa language, Indonesian and Javanese, Chinese, and Thai. And it is a stage made up of multiple languages. Bhagavad Gita is a combination of Indonesian and Thai with rap music. Here, I would like to show you a short video, complete Mahabharata, about 30 minutes. This is Abhimanyu's Mali wedding scene. Ini will be the Abhimanyu the king. And Arjuna and the Karnas fighting, last fighting.
Thank you very much, Koike-san, for showing us such a beautiful video and interesting experience. Everyone can, realize how difficult it was to create such a great performance. Lastly, I would just like to ask one question. After creating this Mahabharata show, how it was welcomed in Japan by Indians and India?
Sorry, I cannot hear. Well,
Oh, can you hear my voice?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so my question was how it was welcomed by Indians in India and in Japan.
日本の
Okay,
インド人はどういう
yeah.
ふうにって感じですけど。はい。
Maybe I don't know well, but so nice. When we did the Indian embassy in Tokyo, so great reaction we got in Tokyo, and also the performances in Nakano in Tokyo, the real performance is also very nice, very good reaction. And especially when we did in Mumbai and Trishu, chapter 2, also so great reaction we got.
Great. Thank you very much. It was such a beautiful experience to listen you, and there will be more. We would like to connect you in individual and would like to have chat on going into more details. But for today, for now, we are going to end up this session and going to end up this stage 2 as well. But
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. You can go back to the stage 1. You can join back to stage 1 where we are having another cultural program by Jonetsu Mystic team. So please do join on stage 1, and we are going to forward by closing this Konnichiwa Pune 2021 on stage 1 itself. So thank you very much for joining with us, being with us. Have a great day ahead.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk my Mahabharata story. Anyway, in addition, I want to talk a bit more. Anyway, in addition, subtitle. First of all, I talk about subtitles. Subtitles were added to just inform the story development, but there was no subtitle for their dialogue. That's because I didn't want the audience to chase only the lines. If the audience wanted to know the meaning by lines, I have to say it was difficult to understand the whole work because I made it using all the elements, space, time, and body. However, even those who didn't know Mahabharata at all had very few opinions that it is difficult to understand. This meaning is that what is understanding? Understanding is not only analytical brain understanding, but also sensory understanding. This understanding was gradually lost, especially after modern times. When look around the world today, it is said that democratic nations are decreasing. Infectious diseases will occur repeatedly. The problem of climate change has come to the point where it is indispensable. Surveillance with monitors is progressing. What is freedom is disappearing. Still, there are many politicians who incite conflict. As urbanization progresses, it is inevitable that we will lose our wild sensibilities, which can be said that it goes in an easy to understand direction. Now, we are facing on the big basic question. Big doubt. What is human being? Human beings are complicated, and it is human beings that cannot be understood only by clarity. How to make up for the incomprehension. It also becomes an inner problem. In other words, if we don't have the consciousness to create harmony each other based on respect, only suspicious doubt will be born in the midst of information full of lies. My intention was just showing the audience the path to harmony through Mahabharata. Mahabharata is a story of conflict, but it has been the last 9 years that it is a sought way to enable harmony in the process. The complete Mahabharata premiered on August 20th this year. This performance is overlapped with the peak of COVID-19 infected patients in Tokyo, and we are facing on financial crisis. Therefore, I would like to ask for that support, but I also feel that implementing Mahabharata involves including these difficulties and keeping to think about how to overcome them. I feel that the world is existing just like what is in Mahabharata is everywhere. What is not in Mahabharata is nowhere. Thank you so much for your listening my long talk. Thanks.